Naram Chevaratmam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tito Jayodirat Nishtaprayasho Bhadresu Nityam Bhagata Sevaya Bhagati Tamashoki Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki Nikama Koparugaritam Param Shukamakamita Durvisamitam Pivata Bhagatam Rashamariam Mahora Horasika Bhuvakam Krishna Swadam Bhagate Dharmakin Hisara Karonishtam Dishamasha Parana Kodunodidam Chamapiyadavashuta Vishwam Vipu Samapyaram Viram Varukaram Prakyahi Dharma Haranam Sanklesanavanam Sandi Nanyatam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabanu Jagapate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Kantanamostade Tapti Kanchana Gorangi Radha Vindavaneshwari Vishavanusute Devi Pradamani Hari Priya Sriman Rasa Rasarambi Vamsi Vada Karsan Venus and Gopinata Sri Saram Divyad Vindanan Yakapadrumada Srimad Ratnagara Shima Sanisto Sri Sri Radha Shirugovina Pestadavi Seva Manushmanami Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmanya Taya Cha Jagadi Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha Divyad Bindaranya Kapaduru Mada Shimad Ratnagara Shima Sanasto Sri Sri Radha Shri Govinda Presta Davihi Seva Manushmanami Namo Mahavanaya Krishna Prema Vidayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namani Gaurtsaye Namaham Om Aginatim Randasya Garangana Sarakya Chaksurun Militam Yana Tashmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Yana Bhutare Swayam Rupakaramayam Dharati Swaparantikam Vandeham Siguru Siyataparakamam Shigarun Vaishnavam Sya Sigurupam Shagaran Sahagara Ragaratim Vitam Samsadevam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitam Sya Namahom Vishnu Paraya Krishna Pasaya Bhutade Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tanamane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharini Nirvishesa Sunyavadi Paskita Desarhat Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Go Bhaktivindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Good morning, welcome to Transcendental Tuesday. Are you there, Rob? Go ahead and unmute yourself and say hello.
Good morning, Prabhuji.
Good morning. What's new?
Oh, not much. Just taking it day by day and making sure that I keep my spiritual practice up.
You do japa in the mornings?
I'm not really good at that habit yet. I'm working on that, but I do try to do it throughout the day.
Okay. So you do it, but not necessarily in the morning.
I'm not up to 16 rounds yet either. I'm working towards that.
Yeah, whatever you do, just do it steadily. That's the main thing. Do less. It's more important to do less if it's steady than to do more one day and then nothing the next day. That sound good?
Sounds good, Prabhuji.
Well, aside from Rob, or including Rob, who's also with us on Zoom, is Thomas, Brent, Jean, Rakesh. Good morning, Rakesh. Bye, Bobby. You are forgiving. I don't know what that means. You are forgiving. Bye, always cryptic. All right. Revisiting. I believe this is our third time dipping at the well of the 29th verse, 5th chapter, 1st canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Narada Muni, our foremost sage, our foremost guide and guru who takes us where we need to go. Tasyaiva menaraktasya prasitasya shadna shabadasha danta shana charashata. I was very attached to those sages, the Bhaktivedantas, who stayed in one place during the 4 months of the rainy season, the Chaturmas. I was gentle in behavior. These are the qualifications of a bona fide disciple. It says one should try to learn the truth by approaching a self-realized soul, not a pseudo-devotee, but a genuine devotee. We're in Mormon, Utah, the last 35, 40 years. And I've met a lot of good Mormon people, first counselors, stake presidents, even members of the quorum, the 12. And they're great people, but they'll talk about going to the movies on Saturday night, or talk about the Utah Jazz or the BYU Cougar football team. They have season tickets and own. These are things that a genuine spiritual master, as opposed to just a good righteous person, would have no. It's not just that he would force himself not to do it, or that he would restrain himself from going there. He would see these activities as like a total dismal waste of time. Reading the latest novels, going to the show on Saturday night, screaming your lungs out at a football game. A bona fide, genuine spiritual master would see these things as a total waste of time. There's no way you'd catch a bona fide spiritual master in any of those activities whatsoever. But when you associate with someone like that, you're going to separate yourself from material concerns, material pursuits. There's no gray area. Sanisha sabhutim yasham jagati bhutan, yasham jagati bhutane, sanisha pashato muni. What is night for the materialist is day for the spiritualist. And what is day for the materialist is night for the spiritualist. So football games, novels, movies, going out to the bourbon and beefsteak restaurant. This is darkness for the materialistic, for the spiritualistic person. Prabhupada came to Australia while I was there, I think 3 times. And I was, upper management. And so I spent most of Prabhupada's waking hours, I was with him, not just attending public programs at the temple and forums, but even in his room. And it was never a time he talked about anything other than Krishna. There was never a time when his mind dropped to the mundane. Or if he would comment on something mundane, he would make it Krishna conscious. One time I was driving Prabhupada through Sydney, and we pulled up at a stoplight, and there was a panel truck next to us, on the side of which was written, hygienic meat. Prabhupada read that. He looked over, and he smiled. He said, there is no such thing as hygienic meat. There's no such thing as hygienic meat. Prabhupada could take that which is most ordinary and common and turn it into a Krishna conscious observation. He's like Chintamani, the spiritual master, the spiritually realized soul is like Chintamani. He opens your eyes to the spiritual world, which is the real world. And those whose eyes have been opened by a bona fide spiritual master all testify that it was as if they had been sleepwalking, dead men walking prior to that. Tavishatam tamoshana dushparashvara sakchakshur labdametranugraham. After hearing the flow of nectar from her son, Kapila Dev, who is also an incarnation of God, Devahuti says, Tapishatam tamoshana, you are my transcendental eyes. I'm seeing the world for the first time. Without your eyes being open through the words and the association of a bona fide spiritual master, you see only matter. You see only shadow. You see only the reflective world. You don't see the real world. What satisfaction can you get from a shadow? Shadow of a tree won't give you fruit. It won't give you flowers. It'll give you shade, but it won't give you fruit or flowers. It won't give you firewood. There are so many things that the shadow tree cannot give you. It may give you 1 or 2 things, but there are a multitude of other things that are not available through the shadow of the tree or through the reflection of the tree on the water. We who are unawakened, who have only eyes to see what is material, see only a small sliver of reality. It's almost as if we're sleepwalking or going about things in the dark with our eyes closed. Devahuti says, Tasya tum tamashonasha. Oh my gosh, for the first time my eyes have been opened. I see matter and I see the much greater world of spirit. I see matter not as a place to waste my time trying to create a niche, comfort and security, because the nature of matter is that it is neither comfortable nor secure. Mamu petu purnarma dukalim napnamanti matmanam samsidim parushim. Those whose eyes are awakened, who are on the way to becoming Mahatmas by following the Mahatmas, they see this material world as far inferior to the spiritual world. Dukalim ashashvatam. It is ashashvatam, it is temporary, and it is full of miseries, birth, death, old age, and disease. Napnavanti Mahatmanam. Those whose eyes are awakened, who are Mahatmas, they don't invest in this material world. Samsirim pariyamgarim. They don't waste their time with mundane things, but rather they focus on making their lives successful. Samsirim paramamgatim. They set their sights on the highest goal of which the human form of life is achievable, and that is to attain the lotus feet of Krishna. Om Tad Vishnu Paramam Param Sarabhasanti Puriya. We were quoting yesterday a lot from Prahlad Maharaj. He's very sanguine, he's very piquant in this area. Sukham Aindirikam Daitya Dehi Yogana Dehina Sarvacha Labate Devad Yata Dukam Ayatanaham. Third verse, 6th chapter, 7th canto. Prahlad Maharaj is talking to his schoolmates, who are the sons of demons. He's saying, Sukha my jantakam, that the happiness which is derived with reference to the sense objects and their interaction with the body is common. Any hog or dog enjoys eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. There's no effort, endeavor involved in that. If a dog wants to have sex, he doesn't have to give flowers, bring candy, write poetry, sit bored out of his mind through a chick flick. It's a freely available, far more freely available than in the human form of life. Eating, sleeping, mating, defending. These things are fixed up by your activities of your past life. You already have your pleasures and pains fixed up for you. They're set. There's nothing you can do to increase your pleasure and decrease your pain. In fact, your endeavors to increase pleasure and reduce pain get the opposite result. The more you try to increase pleasure and reduce pain, the more you increase pain and reduce pleasure, because you're not working with reference to God's universal laws. You need to relax. You need to rest. Last Sunday's feast talk was entitled, Do Your Best and Then Rest. Subtitled, Learn to Strive Less and Abide More. We need to do our level best. We need to recognize our talents and abilities and exercise them to the fullest extent in pursuing our God-given dreams, but then we need to rest, knowing well that the result is up to Krishna. It's not up to us. All this striving, foaming at the mouth, feeling like we have to make things happen, we have to force that person to like us, we have to change another person's behavior. All this doing is draining us, it's overburdening us, it's causing us to lose sleep at night. Krishna wants us to have goals, he wants us to have dreams, he wants us to endeavor. After all, not karmanam anarambam naiskamyam paraj, not jasana siddhimbanati. Says, we're not saying to give up activities. You have to be active in order to maintain your body. So we're not saying to give up activities. We're not saying to give up goals. We're not saying to give up aspirations and ambitions. But we're saying to give up the egotistical impulse to try to be the controller, to try and dictate outcomes. You have a right to do your work, but you're not entitled to the fruit of the actions. We talked on Sunday about the lemon. The lemon's attached to the vine. The lemon doesn't have to worry about how it goes from blossom to flower to fruit. Doesn't have to worry about how the thin skin thickens to protect it from the environment. Doesn't have to worry about how to go from green to yellow. That's none of the lemon's concern. All the lemon has to do is remain attached to the vine. The vine is where the lemon gets all its nutrients from. So as long as he's attached to the vine, he's got nothing to worry about. He just needs to be himself. That's all. There's nothing he can do to force himself to ripen, to force himself to get juice, to force himself to change color. He just needs to abide and not strive. Similarly, the message of the Srimad Bhagavatam and the great saints like Prabhupada Maharaj is work hard, work mightily, exercise your talents and abilities, but psychologically, in your mind, be always at peace. Because ultimately, God consciousness means deep rest, deep peacefulness. Why? Because you're utilizing everything that God gave you in the manner in which it was meant to be utilized. Obviously, if you miss your destiny, if you fail to cultivate that purpose for which you're created, there's going to be a deep malaise. Even you're living a comfortable life of sense gratification, surrounded by all kinds of gadgetry and gadgets, there'll be a deep unrest, a deep disquietude, a deep anxiety, a lack of self-fulfillment in one's heart. One will be full of anxiety and stress. So step right into the middle of what your purpose in life is. And that first step is to approach a bona fide spiritual master. Ask questions. Don't believe blindly. Blind faith is not required. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Daya Kara Vichad Vichara Kare Chade Pavechama Karam. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave us a philosophy through his disciples, the Goswamis, through the commentators, Valadev Vidyabhasan, Vishwanath Chakravarti, Jiva Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, Rupa Goswami. Hundreds and hundreds of books, full of commentary, full of philosophy. We're not meant to be blind followers. We're not meant to be sentimentalists. Rather, it says, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Daya Karya Vichara Vichara Kadejade Pabechamakkara. If you will consider, and you're invited to, and encouraged to, challenged to consider the philosophy of Lord Chaitanya, it is said you will be amazed. Your body will erupt in goop bumps. Your hair will stand on end at the magnificence of the philosophy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Tat prayasho nakartavya yata ayor vayal param natata vidyatetsram mukunda charanamvidam. The goal of all human endeavor is mukunda charanamritam, is to attain the lotus feet, the shelter of Mukunda, the giver of liberation. Any other endeavor for sense gratification, material happiness, economic development just represent a waste, a loss of time and energy with no actual profit. Think about it. The animals eat, sleep, mate, and defend effortlessly, and they do it better than we do. What are some examples? The bee eats honey. Such a beautiful, sublime. We have to go to the health food store and spend $13 for a bottle of golden bee pollen. And yet that's the diet of the bee. He doesn't have to work hard, earn dollars, and buy it at the grocery store. He's going from flower to flower every day, tasting the bee pollen. So in terms of tasting, eating, the bee does much better. Take the hog in that same area. The hog eats stool and garbage and refuse. In India, there are open sewers, and there's always hogs right down there, all 4 feet, right in the flowing detritus of garbage, eating and drinking. And when they look up and they take a break between mouthfuls, they're grinning from ear to ear. There's something about the bodily anatomy of the hog, the way the taste buds are aligned, that he enjoys the taste of stool and garbage. He thinks he's just hit the jackpot. He's at the He's at the buffet at the Grand Hilton. Well, we can't compete with the hogs and the bees for eating, defending. Think of the big predators, the lions and leopards and jaguars, who have switchblades. A human being is considered very dangerous and more able to defend himself if he has a switchblade. He flicks it out, and then he says, "All right, now I dare you to come and challenge me." That the lions and the tigers are born with 10 switchblades. They have a switchblade on the end of each finger. And no matter how much you work out in the gym, how much creatine you take or steroids, and how many muscles, you can have muscles on top of muscles, but you'll not last even a half a second in the ring with a 500-pound Bengali tiger. So that, and he's born with 10 switchblades and a mouth full of steak knives. This is a killing machine. You're like, he'd go through you in a nanosecond. So that's eating, that's fighting, defending, sleeping. We have fish in our lake here. We have a 200,000-gallon lake with koi. And when the temperatures go down and the water starts to get really cold and freezing, their metabolism slows down to like 1 heartbeat per minute. And they just go into a hibernation state. They go to sleep in October, and when the ice melts and the temperatures rise, sometime around April they wake up. So can you do that? We toss and turn, and we take pills, and we take melatonin, just so we can get 6 or 8 hours sleep. But the bears, so many animals hibernate for months at a time. The fish, they go to sleep for months and months and months and months at a time. Eating, sleeping, mating, defending. The animal doesn't worry about the mortgage payments, doesn't worry about the commute, doesn't worry about the shortage of semiconductors, doesn't worry about the stock market, doesn't worry about the pandemic. He just has that faith that when he gets up in the morning, his food's going to be there, he's going to be provided for. His needs are very simple. Most of the bovines, they just need grass. The whole earth is carpeted with grass. They can go anywhere without visas or passports. They don't need to make any elaborate arrangement for their maintenance. Grass is freely and abundantly available for them all over the surface of the globe. So what worries, what anxieties do they have? You can walk out of our door at 2 o'clock in the morning, and on a full moon night, and the llamas are all cushed, they're all down on the ground with their legs under them, and their eyes are open, and there's a peace. There's a feeling that the llamas are lying there without a single worry in the world, enjoying the moon rays, enjoying the nighttime atmosphere, totally at peace. They've eaten, God's given them their fill, it's nighttime. Now just go deep within oneself and feel deep, deep satisfaction and fulfillment. Of course, the animal can't feel fulfillment on the level that we can. But as far as their basic necessities of life are concerned, they're not worried, and we, as a so-called highly evolved progressive civilization, we're sick, literally sick to death with worry. So how have we become more advanced than the animals? They don't worry at all about their eating, sleeping, mating, defending, and we're killing ourselves with worry in spite of all of our advances, the green revolution and the farming technology and all like that. We're experiencing empty shelves in the grocery stores now. We can't even give ourselves our basic necessities of life, and at any moment, truckers strike. All these monocrops are subject to various sorts of blights. The basic necessities of life could be and will be cut off from us. The point I'm making is that we are uniquely qualified in the human form of life not to compete with the animals in eating, sleeping, mating, defending. They're born better than us. They're born uniquely gifted and qualified in all of those areas. And they're also live their life without worry and without anxiety. So what is it that we can do that the animals cannot do? How is it amongst all created beings that we are unique? And that is that we can achieve God consciousness. Natevidu Shvartakatimi Vishnu Durasi Hebehira Andaya Tandirupadimanam Tevishatantaviruvanam. We need to be aware. We need to get and to follow, to identify and to take shelter of those leaders who see the truth. One person with vision can lead thousands of people in the right direction. You just need one. One sun in the sky gives reflective light to the moon and all of the stars. It just takes one sun. It doesn't take many suns, nor does it require many stars or many moons. The stars and moons derive their light from the sun. One sun is all it requires to see everything clearly and to navigate your way here and there in safety. Similarly, we all need in our lives one self-realized person, someone who can awaken to us the greater reality of the spiritual world and direct us towards that. It's like the arrow. An arrow and a bow have no particular utility. You have the bow and you have the arrow, and there's no particular use to them. It's only when you notch the bow and you stretch it and you stretch the arrow, you stretch the bow with the arrow notched on the string, that then there's any potentiality. Similarly, getting the human form of life, eating, sleeping, mating, defending, has no special significance to it. It's basically, there's no utilization, there's no purpose, there's no meaning. But when one comes into contact, and the spiritual world, the greater reality of the spiritual world from which we come, becomes evident to the disciple, then the spiritual master, so to speak, has taken the arrow of the disciple and notched him into the bow of knowledge and vision and clarity, and drawn that bow and inspired and challenged and aimed that disciple back to home, back to God. That's what a true leader does. But a misguided leader, a blind leader, one blind man cannot lead even one other man because he doesn't know where he's going. So how can a blind man lead one man? A sighted man can lead hundreds or thousands. A blind man cannot even help himself. He doesn't even know where he's going. Now, take a blind man who shouts out to other blind men, "Hey, I can see, follow me. This is what we need to do. This is where we need to go." Now, how much worse is a blind man who pretends to see than a blind man who knows he can't see? A blind man who knows he can't see, at least he confines the problem to himself, and he's open and honest about it, and he may be seriously inquisitive to find a sighted man. But the man who's blind, who pretends, who makes a show of seeing, who declares to everybody that he's qualified, that he has vision, that he knows where to go and how to get there, is the worst kind of cheater. There's a special hell called Andantamaha for those who present themselves as leaders, as visionaries, who are totally ignorant and unaware of the soul. There's a special dark, low place of hellish life awaiting them in the next incarnation. They are not just wasting their own time, but they're wasting the time of all of their followers, their dependents, and their constituency. Now, we, as individual blind people, can either take the misguided blind leaders at their word and follow them to our great detriment, follow them over a cliff, as it were. Or if someone says, "I can see," You can't see, so you don't know by seeing if they're telling the truth or not. Am I right? Someone says, I can see. You're blind, so you have no way of verifying their statement through your eyes, but you can verify their statement through your ears. Chanaka Pandit says, a fool and a wise man may be dressed the same. You can dress up anybody in the garb of a saint, of a holy man. You can put robes, you can put tilak, you can put neck beads on, you can give them some beads for their hand. You can have two people standing side by side that both look like they're well versed in knowledge. By looking, you cannot tell which one is a fool and which one is a learned man. But by hearing, you can immediately tell. When they open their mouths, within a few seconds, you say, oh, here's the fool and here's the learned person. So when leaders raise their voices, get up on the podiums and up on the stage, appear before you on radio and TV, and they claim to be visionaries, you're not going to be able to determine the veracity of their statements through your eyes. They may look nicely, they may be handsome, they may be well dressed, they may be very articulate in terms of their vocabulary. Hitler was a famous public speaker. He was a rousing public speaker. He was loud, he was determined, and he would go on for hours and hours. People came under his sway. You have to use the discriminatory power of your hearing. Anyatu evmajantana shudpanevana tepi panjanam mitu shmiti panayanaham. Those will overcome the cycle of birth, death, disease, and old age. Those will end up hitting the mark. They will end up leaping out of the bow with propulsion, with velocity, with direction, with focus. They will end up in the spiritual world who hear very discriminatory and very attentively. Anyatu evam ajanata. There are those who are sightless, who don't have the advantage of a good education, a good birth, who have taken birth in this Kali Yuga age, which is characterized by short-livedness, laziness, lack of intelligence, irregular hours. And one can overcome all those disadvantages and all those shortcomings by learning, cultivating the art of hearing. Satam prashangam mabye sambire vivat rashayro karna. This is your weapon. This is your secret weapon, not the eyes, but the ears are your secret weapon to discriminate and discern and to separate the wheat from the chaff. Mahat sevam dara mahar vimuktam. If you make the right connection, qualified, bona fide servant of the Lord, that will cause the door to liberation to swing wide open. Your path will be clear, back to home, back to God, based simply upon hearing attentively and consequently rendering service to a pure devotee of the Lord. Tamo dwaram yoshitam sangim. The same reverse effect is achieved when you take unconditionally, undiscriminatedly the words of the false, misguided, blind leaders. When you just listen to that person who is loudest and the most well-fed and the most aggressive, the doors to hell are flung open. And we see this nowadays. We see nowadays that there's no more cultivation, there's no more respect for one another. But in recent years, since 2016, it has simply been a question of who's the most vicious, who's the most ignorant, who's the most aggressive, who's the biggest liar, who's the most hurtful person, who's the least sensitive. Shravid barashta karye shamsuda nayat kanapato jatunama grajagada. Without the discriminatory sense of attentive hearing, Animalistic people will simply elect as their leaders bigger animals. Hogs, dogs, camels, and asses. Hogs, dogs, camels, and asses will elect bigger hogs, bigger dogs, bigger camels, and bigger asses to lead them all over a ditch. The contribution of misguided, loudmouth, well-fed, aggressive, pugnacious leaders is that they simply lead people in elaborate ways of wasting their time. They've only got a few years in which to capitalize on the human form of life and prepare our way back to home, back to Godhead, to cultivate the attachment for saintly people. And yet our leaders would have us engage in other activities which simply waste our valuable time. We'll go back again to that authority on the subject matter, Prahlad Maharaj. He says, in materialistic life, in materialistic society, Mugda Shah Balakesha, Kridatoyati, Jaraya Grashadesha, Yadya Kapasha Vimite. Let's break it down. How the years, the decades, the 70 or 80 years which are given come to nothing in terms of valuable investiture of the time, in terms of gaining the ultimate profit which is available only in human form of life. What do we do? Mugdasha Balakaishure. First of all, there's 10 good years when we can't even speak hardly. We're learning the language. We're learning to walk. We're learning to talk. We're uncoordinated. We're trying to develop some grace, some ability. At least 10 years of our life. So let's say you live 70 years. So now you have 60 years left. Okay? And then from next 10 years, you spend in sports. I grew up in a small town in Pennsylvania. There was nothing to do there. There was no cultivation of spiritual knowledge. There was church, certainly for an hour a week. But what do you do the rest of the time? We played baseball in the summer. We played touch football in the winter. And we spent years and years and years and years playing baseball and touch football. When I think about how much more profitably we could have spent our lives had we had the right direction, it makes me cry. So that way, 20 years of your life is wasted. And then in old age, there's often invalidity, there's senility. So then there's another 20 years wasted. So there's 40 years out of 70 years. And then we sleep half of our life. So there's 20 years left. And 20 years is enough. If we took 20 years in the middle of our life to sanely and soberly cultivate God consciousness, that would be more than enough. Unfortunately, alas, what do we do in those 20 years? Prahlad nails it again. Dura punene kamina. When we get of age and those hormones start to assert themselves, kamina, we become full of lusty desires. We become just a ball of lust, senses, without cultivating sense control under the guidance of a spiritual master. The teenage years are devastating. They're absolutely devastating. You're hit by you're just run over by the train of lusty desires. Mohina baliyasha. And you just think, oh, I've got to get a woman. Boys are looking for girls, and girls are looking for boys, and they're wasting so much time texting back and forth and dating, talking nonsense, uncontrollably. And the result is that one gets hooked up. Boy gets hooked up with a girl, girl gets hooked up with a boy. Then the result is pumsam sriya mituni bab metan. One is entrapped, bound up by the invisible ropes of sex desire, of lusty desires. Marriage comes, and then once marriage comes, there are kids, there's hospital bills, there's diapers, there's minivans, there's now a 3-bedroom house instead of a 1-bedroom house, there's education, there's ballet lessons, there's hockey practice, there's the wedding, You can spend as much on a wedding as it would cost to put a down payment on a house. Then there's the grandkids. So Prahlad Maharaj says, one whose mind and senses are uncontrolled becomes increasingly attached to family life because of insatiable lusty desires and very strong illusion. In such a madman's life, the remaining years, those last 20 years, are wasted because even during those years, he cannot engage himself in devotional service. From human life, such a person entangled in family life is put into the cycle of continuous birth and death. Thus, one loses the true benefit of human life, which is to become Krishna conscious and solve life's problems. We'll finish today with this another quote from Prahlad Maharaj. Someone says, "Well, Prahlad, how do you know this? You're only a 5-year-old boy. You don't have the experience. You don't know what you're missing. There's all kinds of sense gratification, all kinds of sports and diversions and LED TVs and electric cars and airplanes, and there's all kinds of technology which is just on the horizon, which is going to solve our. How is it that you can speak so authoritative about all of this?" Prahlad, he says, "Drishta maya vibhu, Dishna kila Dishna panam ayos yavati ichiti yanjano yam yeshmat pita kapita hoshumbrihu vishporjana lita sadena." Prahlad, how can you just make this sweeping blanket statement that all sense gratification, all material desires are a waste of time? And Prahlad Maharaj says, I learned from my dad. My dad did teach me a very valuable lesson. In a roundabout, twisted, perverted way, Hiranyakashipu taught his son Prahlad the best lesson of all. Because nobody was more powerful, nobody's more successful, nobody had more sense gratification than Hiranyakashipu. Nobody was more committed to the gratification of their senses than Hiranyakashipu. And nobody was more of an ignorant leader. Nobody could say that they misguided their constituency more than Hiranyakashipu. He deposed the pious, righteous demigods, sat on the throne of Indra, and he wrested leadership of the universal affairs from the pious and righteous in order to promote his own self-centered, egotistical program. And Prahlad Maharaj said, at one point he was so powerful that he just had to glance with displeasure at any of the demigods and they would tremble in abject terror and fear. That's how powerful he was. No materialist could get more powerful than that. And yet, although simply by glancing at the demigods in a scant way, he struck them with terror, yet Yashmat Krita Kuprita Hishumuru Vispurjana Lita Satarin Rashta. He says, I have seen the results of sense gratification, of materialistic pursuits through my father. When my father was angry and he laughed sarcastically at the demigods, by seeing the movement of his eyebrows, they were vanquished. Yet, my father, who was so powerful, has now been vanquished by you within a moment. That's the bottom line. That's why our modern material culture is just an elaborate arrangement for wasting the human form of life, the time and energy we have, and cheating us, in effect, of the ultimate purpose and goal and destination of human life, which is to go back to home, back to God. So we'll stop there on this note and revisit this subject tomorrow. Certainly valuable discussion. Any thoughts? Rob there? Still with us?
Yes, Prabhuji. I definitely need to not waste the time that I've been given following the blind. And I need to spend that time investing in my spirituality and seeking out spiritual guidance and association with pure devotees.
We enjoy Rob joins us on our Tuesday night conference meetings, and we've been brainstorming recently about how to best be representatives of Prabhupada and present the most attractive programs at our public assemblies so that first time people are attractive. Rob walked to the doors. How long ago was it? First time you visited the temple?
It's been about a year now.
It's been about a year. So we often refer to Rob. We often ask Rob, okay, Rob, you're a new person. Um, tell us what we should do as a new person to make our services and our presentation and our hospitality and our reception optimally seeker friendly. So we're getting valuable guidance and advice from Rob. It's been 50 years since I first crossed the threshold of a Krishna temple, so my impressions are not exactly fresh, but Rob's giving us some very, very good feedback, and we've recently made some changes. You weren't there last Saturday, but oh boy, it went really well. It went really, really well. We'll talk about that tonight in our meeting. But we pray to our eternal guide and spiritual master to be increasingly more and more sensitive to and more effective in bringing people to Krishna consciousness, giving them the proper shelter and the proper guidance so that they will not waste their lives and the lives of their loved ones, but utilize this human form of life for going back to home, back to Godhead. See if we have any comments. Read Prabhupada's books to direct our lives. Definitely. Bhai Bobby says, stupendous guidance from Prahlad Maharaj. Yes, indeed. Anjali, Dandavat Pranams. Anjali's on board. Usually she makes tons and tons of comments, but she's a little restrained this morning. Raquel, Hari Krishna. Always good to see your Facebook page. Is Chris with you now? I saw a picture of you and Chris together. Is that from a past time, or is he visiting you right now? I know he got a job with UPS in Phoenix, so. Govinda, Hari Krishna, Transcendental Tuesday, Bhakti Gary. Thank you. Rakesh again. Jean. Thank you, Jean. Brent. Thomas. All right, it's been wonderful. Transcendental Tuesday. I've enjoyed your association and look forward to again convening online 23 hours from now for Wisdom Wednesday. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram.